very strong. Then there is MTI Strong.
Hello members, I'm Tom Morrison. Welcome to another edition of MTI TV. On our last segment, we discussed how those in attendance at our 2015 spring meeting were challenged with finding and engaging the next generation of workers for their plants. One of the featured speakers, Dr. Jeanna Mastrodicasa, Dean of Generational Studies of the University of Florida. She provided attendees great insight into the differences between generations and where the focus should be in recruiting the younger employees. We're pleased to have with us Dr. Jeanna Mastrodicasa with us today to share some of those insights. Jeanna, welcome to MTI TV.
Thank you for having me.
Jeanna, you study this stuff called generations. In your travels and interactions, what are you finding are the biggest misunderstood perceptions of the younger generation?
Well, I think there's a lot of misunderstandings. The first one I'd start with is there's a perception that they're lazy. I don't necessarily think they're lazy. I think they just approach problems and situations differently. So they might not start in the same way that a different generation might. The other thing that I would say they are is it's sort of a misperception is, and some people are very much underestimated on how good they are with technology, and some are very overestimated on how good they are with technology. It really depends on the individual experience. In general, young people don't approach problems the same way, and they look for a faster solution, an efficient solution, rather than the same processes as different generations. So those are kind of some of the main ones I would put out there. The caveat always is every generation complains about the next youngest generation. So just in your heart of hearts know that people complain about you, and that the millennials will certainly complain about whoever's next.
If a company is going to be appealing to someone under 30, what are some of the characteristics they need to ensure are present in their company?
A good overview place to start might be looking at company policies and evaluating what you have and why. A simple example is the dress code. So if you're working in a situation where dress code is related to safety, certainly there's no reason to change that. You have to have closed-toed shoes. You might have to have a hat on or a helmet on. That's totally fine. But if you're in the kind of environment where it really doesn't matter, especially if it's where nobody from the public will see them, you might want to look at your dress code. You might want to look at things like what benefits are you offering? Do you have to work for 10 years at a company to vest in benefits? That is something that young people are not attracted to. They look for more of a portability kind of approach. And then the other kinds of things to be thinking about are there ways to be flexible with time? Are there assignments that can be done at different hours? Would a 4-day work week work with different hours? I think looking at your standard 8 to 5 or shift times approach, you really should look at what really is important because it's part of the operation and it's obviously how it goes, versus, well, this is something we did 20 years ago and by golly, this is the rules. And the best way to really start those kinds of conversations is to ask young people what kinds of things might they suggest as a needed change. And then a final example I would give is related to music and earphones. So I was just on a factory line last week, and one of them, I was on two different ones. One of them allows people to use earphones and listen to their own music and do what they're doing, and the other one did not. And it was the ones that did not was specifically related to safety and making sure they could hear if there was a problem. So that's such a small thing. It may not matter to you whatsoever, but it might improve a quality of life kind of workplace.
What about the clash of the generations in the workforce? How does a company seek to deal with 3 different generations working together in their company?
Well, there's certainly no one solution, and just keep in mind that there was a point where the baby boomers were the youngest people in the workplace, and they probably drove the silent generation people nutty too. So one of the things that I think is a good way to look at it is consider doing some things like putting together cross-generational teams to solve a problem. One of the examples I can give is in one of our workplaces here at the University of Florida, our Department of Housing asked its staff to come up with ways that would improve efficiency. And they deliberately assigned different levels of staff, different ages of staff, so it would be a very cross-purposed team. And they analyzed and came up with a lot of recommendations and really surprised each other within the team, because some people would see something as, well, that's how you do it, and others would say, well, I don't think this is important. And it could be as small as ways to save on utilities to broader ways to make your business more efficient. But that's one way to do it. I also think just asking for just creating opportunities for each generation to interact with each other, whether it's in a meeting or on a project, is the way to go.
What do you feel are the consequences for the company who has the traditional attitude that I pay you, you come to work, and you leave? Will that work with the younger generation?
I really think that, well, young people generally are not coming to work and looking for their friends there. They view it as not their friends or at work. They view their friends or in their lives separately from work. So that, I think, is a different approach than, say, baby boomers. Where I do think there's some real opportunity is figuring out what benefits there are that might sweeten the pot. And so looking at flexibility, looking at, are there ways to help people with parental leave, or you want to coach your kid's soccer team and you want to leave at 4. Well, let's talk about how you can do that and still contribute a full work week. Those are the small benefits that can really make a difference, because at the end of the day, as an employer, you're still looking to pay the employee. You wish that they do a good job, have loyalty, will stay with your company. There are ways that I think don't necessarily cost anything that might make a difference. And then the final thing I'll say, I haven't really talked too much about the dress code other than to talk about the being able to listen to music. Dress code is something that is a very hot topic for young people, and they want to be able to dress the way they want to dress. So take a look and see what works.
If you could provide 3 action steps today that MTI members would want to work through to get their business in step with the future of tomorrow's workers, what would you say those would be?
Well, I would start with listening to your staff, whether it be the oldest generation or the youngest generation, but provide formal and informal opportunities to interact with your staff, whether it be a lunch, whether it be an informal way where you can submit anonymous suggestions, but gather the feedback. Being open to the input from your staff really makes a difference. So I would do that, and it doesn't have to be huge, but if you aren't sure, put it out there. You might get something that surprises you. I think the second thing to do is to check in on employee morale. And it might be a formal thing where it's a survey or some kind of specific request, or it might be just walking around and talking with people and saying, how's it going? There are ways that you can step in and lead a great company. If things aren't going quite well, you have to know about it. And so don't be too distant from the people who work in your company. And then the final thing is review your company policies and make any small adjustments, especially ones that seem to be very important to the employees that you actually realize are not that big a deal to you. I always think a great example is people that do the technical work, like perhaps your website or your other kinds of things like that. They can work virtually anytime, any place. And I think every successful webmaster I've ever worked with really did the bulk of the work between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. And it doesn't matter. It's still done before I go to work the next day. And if it works better for them, that's fine. So really figuring out what's important, what needs to happen, and when and how, but being flexible around the parts of it that really aren't a big deal to you. It's just the way you've always done it.
Jeanna, it was great to host you in Orlando in April at the MTI Spring Meeting. Thanks for being with us today on MTI TV.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation, and I really enjoyed getting to meet a lot of great people with your organization.
Members, young people are the future of your business. MTI is working hard to enhance its online experience, technical training, and programs to help you engage younger workers at the highest levels. I would encourage you to call me personally and talk through your strategy and how you can engage MTI programs to motivate your younger employees and give them a sense of purpose every day. Our passion is your success because you're not just strong, you're MTI strong. I'm Tom Morrison. See you next time on MTI TV.